Right now, somewhere in the world, a doctor is calling a time of death. The machines go quiet, the chest stops moving, and the brain, by every clinical measure we have, has shut down. But here is where everything we think we know falls apart, because in peer reviewed hospitals across 12 countries, patients who were declared clinically dead came back. And what they described was not a dream, not a hallucination. In their own words, it was more real than anything they had ever felt while alive. I know what you're thinking. That sounds made up. It isn't. And before this video is over, you are going to hear something that will make you question the very nature of your own consciousness, something that neither science nor religion has been able to fully explain. Stay with me, because we are just getting started. If this kind of content moves you, hit that subscribe button right now. Every week we go deep into the questions that matter most, the ones most people are too afraid to ask. Now, let's begin. Here's something the medical textbooks confirm, but almost nobody talks about. Of all your senses, sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing, hearing is the very last one to leave. Think about that for a second. The eyes go dark, the hands go cold, the body becomes, in clinical language, unresponsive, but the ears are still listening. I'm going to come back to that. And when I do, it will land very differently than it does right now. But first, the cold, measurable truth. What does your body actually do in the moments after your heart stops? 0 to 60 seconds. The heart stops pumping. All blood, which was carrying oxygen to every single cell in your brain, stops the eyeball. It stops moving. Immediately, your face loses its color. The medical term is pallor mortis. It can happen in seconds. But here is the part that is genuinely strange. Your skin cells, they do not know yet. They are still dividing. They will keep dividing for days. Your body temperature begins to drop, roughly 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit every hour, slowly descending toward the temperature of the room. Forensic scientists call this algor mortis. It is so precise and so predictable. They use it as a clock, and between 12 and 24 hours after death, your muscles, starved of the chemical fuel that tells them to relax, begin to lock in place. Rigor mortis. The body stiffens into whatever position it last held. These are verified facts, undisputed. The cold mechanical machinery of the end. But here is where it gets strange, really strange. In 2013, neuroscientists at the University of Michigan connected rats to EEG machines and induced cardiac arrest. What they recorded stopped the room in the 30 seconds after clinical death, after the heart had completely stopped. The brains of those rats produced a massive surge of gamma waves. Now, gamma waves are associated with the highest states of conscious awareness in living beings, more coordinated, more intense, more organized than anything recorded during normal waking life. The researchers called it a surge of activity. They were careful with their words, but the question they could not answer, the question that no one has answered, is this: what was the brain doing? Was it a malfunction, a last desperate electrical discharge, like a dying star going supernova? And this is where science and the spiritual collide at full speed. Was the brain doing something intentional? Was it opening a door? Most people stop asking here. But what happens next? No, what is where the real mystery begins. By every clinical definition, at 4 minutes after cardiac arrest, the brain is dead. No blood flow, no oxygen. The neurons cannot fire. The most complex object in the known universe has stopped. And yet, in documented, peer-reviewed studies published across the United Kingdom, the United States, and the Netherlands, patients who were resuscitated after extended periods of clinical death reported experiences, detailed ones. From vantage points, their physical body, lying flat on a hospital table, could not have provided. One woman in Southampton, England, described floating above her own resuscitation. She described the specific tools the nurses used, the exact position of the equipment, details she could not have seen from where her body lay. She was, at the time, she claims to have observed all of this, clinically dead. If the brain is completely off, how is anyone seeing anything from the ceiling? Pause on that, because we are about to go somewhere even deeper. Dr. Sam Parnia is not a mystic. He is an associate professor of medicine at New York University. He leads some of the most rigorous resuscitation research in the world. He does not use words like soul or afterlife. He calls it post-death consciousness. He chose that language very carefully. His AWARE study, the largest of its kind ever conducted, published in the journal Resuscitation, placed hidden visual targets on high shelves in cardiac wards, targets that could only be seen from above the bed, invisible to anyone lying down. The goal was simple. If a patient returned from clinical death claiming to have floated above their body, could they describe what they saw? The answer was not the clean no that materialist science might have preferred. One patient could. Dr. Parnia does not call this proof. He calls it data that requires explanation. And he says the explanation we have been given, that these are just hallucinations from a dying brain, does not account for the consistency, the cross-cultural repetition, or the verifiable details. So if it is not a hallucination, then what is it? In 2006, a woman named Anita Moorjani was admitted to a hospital in Hong Kong. She had been fighting lymphoma, a form of cancer, for 4 years. Her organs were shutting down. Her husband was told to say goodbye. She entered a coma. And then something happened that her oncologist spent years trying to explain. She describes entering a state of awareness, not metaphorically, but with clinical precision, that she calls more real than life. She says she experienced what near-death researchers call the life review, a complete nonlinear replay of her existence, witnessed not from her own eyes, but from the perspective of every single person she had ever touched, every kindness, every moment of fear, every wound she had caused without knowing it. No judgment, only clarity. She was told by what or by whom she cannot name that it was not her time, that she had to go back. Within days of regaining consciousness, her tumors had shrunk dramatically. Her oncologist documented the regression. The word they used in their medical notes was remarkable. The Grayson NDE scale, the validated clinical tool used by researchers at the University of Virginia to measure near-death experience intensity, rated her account in the highest possible category, not because of the tumors, because of the consistency of every element she described, with thousands of other accounts across cultures, across centuries, across continents, the tunnel, the light, the overwhelming wordless sense of being completely and unconditionally known. Now, here is the twist that changes everything. If the tunnel, the light, and the life review were simply the product of a dying brain, they should look exactly the same everywhere. A chemical is a chemical. Oxygen deprivation is oxygen deprivation, but they do not look the same. In Thailand and India, the beings encountered during near-death experiences are frequently described as bureaucrats, officials checking scrolls, weighing records of deeds. In Native American traditions, there is a river. In Norse cosmology, a bridge. In secular Western accounts, almost universally, a light, a presence, a voice. The imagery is different, but what never changes across every culture, every century, every language on earth is the emotional quality. Every account, without exception, describes the same thing: an absence of fear, a feeling of being for the very first time completely home. And now, remember what I told you at the beginning of this video: hearing is the last sense to leave. This is why hospice nurses, the ones who sit with the dying every single day as a matter of their work, tell the family something that seems impossible: keep talking, even after the eyes close, even after the breathing slows, even after every other visible sign of consciousness is gone, because there is documented, peer-reviewed evidence published in the journal Palliative Medicine that on some level, they can still hear you. If you have ever lost someone and you spoke to them in those final moments, they heard you. And there is something else, something with no satisfying scientific explanation. Hospice nurses call it the reach. A dying person, sometimes comatose for days, will suddenly lift their arm towards something unseen. Their face will change. They will appear against all medical probability awake. They will speak a name and then they will be gone. This is called terminal lucidity. It has been documented in dementia patients who had not recognized their own families in years. It has been observed in cases of advanced brain disease where consciousness, by every neurological measure, should have been completely impossible. No one has explained it, not fully, not yet. If you're still with me, hit the like button right now. It helps more people find this conversation. And this is a conversation the world needs to be having. Stories like this remind us of something. Reality, the fundamental nature of what we are and what we experience, is stranger and more generous than our maps of it. The atoms in your body were forged in the cores of dying stars billions of years ago. The iron in your blood was created in a supernova explosion. You are not merely in the universe, you are made of it. When the body dies, those atoms do not vanish. They return. They become soil, atmosphere, eventually other stars. Some cultures have always known this. The Tibetan tradition speaks of the bardo, an intermediate state between death and what comes next, lasting 49 days. The ancient Egyptians built an entire civilization around the belief that identity survives the body. The Stoic philosophers practice memento mori, the daily contemplation of their own mortality, not as morbidity, but as the most clarifying thing a human being can do. Because when you genuinely reckon with the fact that you will die, not someday, but certainly, something shifts. The small things get smaller. The real things get brighter. Every single person who has returned from the threshold, from the verified clinical moment of death and back, reports essentially the same thing. Not, I wish I had worked more. Not, I wish I had been more careful. They say, I wish I had loved more fully. I wish I had been less afraid. That is not anecdote. According to the International Association for Near-Death Studies, it is the single most consistent finding in over 5 decades of near-death research. Steve Jobs, one of the most analytical driven minds of the modern era, a man who built his life on precision. His last words, I witnessed by his sister and recorded in her memoir, were 3 simple repetitions. Oh, wow, oh, wow, oh, wow. Thomas Edison, the man who gave the world electric light, who devoted his entire existence to measuring the physical world, looked up from his deathbed and said, it is very beautiful over there. We cannot know what they saw. No one has returned from permanent death to file a complete report. But here is what we do know. The science published in peer-reviewed journals conducted by skeptical researchers at some of the world's leading universities says the brain produces its most extraordinary electrical activity in the moments after clinical death. The research says consciousness may persist beyond the point where we believed it could not. The nurses say the dying are not afraid. The survivors say they were not alone. Death is not a wall, it may be a horizon. And unlike a wall, a horizon is something you can move toward. If this video moved you, share it with someone you love. Hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because every week we explore the questions that sit at the edge of everything we think we know. And leave a comment below. Tell me, did you know about terminal lucidity? Have you ever been with someone in those final moments? This community holds space for those conversations. We will see you in the next one.